Welcome to a very special episode of the 60 Plus podcast.
It is?
It is.
Why?
I'll tell you why, Janet. Happy birthday to you.
Oh,
Happy birthday. We're recording this on your birthday,
I
actually.
know.
Yes.
I know. I thought you were going to ask me how I was. I was going to be like, I'm so happy.
Okay.
It's my birthday.
It's your birthday.
I get to live another day.
So we somewhat regularly have what we call real talk episodes
Yes.
where we bring in someone that's over 60 and we ask them 10 questions.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot about this.
And today is Real Talk with Janet.
Oh.
Second annual installment of Real Talk with Janet.
Now I'm scared.
And I have 10 questions for you.
Okay, and they're not probably our usual ones, I
They're not.
imagine.
I think there might be one or two that are the same.
Oh, that's it? You have
That's it.
8 new questions? Okay, I'm flying blind here.
You are. You haven't seen these questions, and you don't know what they are.
I hope you're in a good mood.
I haven't been in a good mood
I
all
know.
day.
No, I'm really, really scared.
This is not one of the questions, but we always ask, are you over 60?
Oh, yes,
Yes,
I
okay.
am.
All right, question number 1.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Do you feel any older?
No. Well, Then what?
than
Like
you
when
did-
I was 20?
Than you did last year?
Not yet. No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did you expect
As
to?
a matter of fact, in some ways, I might even feel younger.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I had a little tumble last year and I
That's
was in a
true.
boot.
Yep.
And I couldn't get very far very quickly.
Okay.
And so I had to learn to take it easy and slow down and actually rest and
Mm-hmm.
sit. And yeah, I couldn't drive.
It wasn't like you had to learn how to walk all over again.
No, but I don't know. There was something about that healing process which made me feel older than I do now because now I'm in full motion.
tip-top shape.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 80th episode of the 60 Plus podcast.
Wow. Wow, that blows my mind.
What are 1 or 2 takeaways that you've taken from the show?
Oh my goodness. I've learned so much doing this show. I can't even begin to list all the things. I mean, it seems like every episode where we have to do research, I learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to ask me to remember something specific?
Well, I asked for 1 or 2 takeaways.
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is this idea of health span versus lifespan. And, the idea is that we want to stay as healthy for as long as we possibly can. And you know what? It seems like over the course of the episodes that we've done around this subject, it's pretty simple. I mean, the
we
behaviors
repeat
are
a lot of...
pretty simple.
yes.
Drink water. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I just took a drink of water myself.
Eat a good diet, a Mediterranean type of diet.
Mhm.
Okay, sure. I'm all in for that.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise regularly. Yes. Strength training for sure. That's something that I've added fairly recently.
Okay.
And people, good friends. And I feel very grateful for all the friends and all the family that I have around me and whatnot.
All right. I hope this isn't repetitive,
Hmm.
but specifically, what's something that you do differently now as a result of what we've learned over the 60 Plus
Well,
podcast? Because you did have a good diet before.
I did.
You were an exerciser.
I drank a lot of water.
Drank a lot of
Or drank a lot, period. No, I'm kidding.
What's one thing that you definitely do differently as a result of what we've learned?
Definitely strength training.
Okay.
That is something that I have added. And, I learned about how strength training was good for your muscles, but I didn't realize it was so good for your bones.
It was an interesting point, and I didn't know that either.
And that came to the forefront for me with the healing of the sprain. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to make sure I keep my bones healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to fall and have breaks and all that stuff. So I think that's definitely something that I've done differently.
Okay. Do you find it hard to do the strength training? I mean, you go to the gym and you do resistance
I
training.
actually like it.
you?
I've always kind of liked the Nautilus, the machines, as opposed to doing like free weights and stuff. I just find it less cumbersome, maybe. And it's kind of fun, I don't mind going there. It's interesting, people watching certainly, while you're working out. And you can also look at the television screens, which there are many.
There are many.
Yeah.
There are many. We go to the same gym, so there are many. I've just recently started wearing some earbuds,
And
uh,
how's that working out for you?
and I listen to podcasts, and I like it.
Do you listen to our podcast?
No, I listen to our podcast far too
Is
much.
that why you don't answer me when I try to talk to you when we're in the gym?
Well, because I have the earbuds going, but
Yeah.
no, I pause it.
Yeah, yeah.
I do.
I love the people who have the earbuds in, they're on their phones, and they're just sitting on the equipment.
Well, they might
That
be
always
between
cracks-
sets.
No, you don't have to wait 15 minutes between a set.
Okay.
But go ahead. Next question.
Question number 4.
Yes.
What's something that you do now that you wouldn't have even considered doing when you were younger?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that certainly giving myself that time in the morning, like I really like to ease into the day. Now, I wouldn't consider that when I was younger because I didn't really have the ability
You didn't have the time
to
to
do
get
that.
up,
Right.
kids off.
And I really enjoy that, morning coffee. I'm sitting in my little room and, it's not padded, don't worry. And yeah, and I really
but it is
love.
locked from the outside.
How long do we need to keep her in there? Until she calms down. No. So yeah, it's a really beautiful time of my day and I really love it. So I don't know. Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
What's something that you thought to be important when you were younger that you now believe is less or even completely unimportant?
Oh, what other people think about you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't see that coming, Joe?
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I think I used to, and maybe I still do this in some regards, but I think I used to tamp myself down a little bit. Didn't want to make waves and whatnot. And, learning over time that, hey, you got to speak your truth. You got to stand up for yourself and whatnot. And so be it.
We've had this conversation before. Personally, I find that I'm much freer to speak my mind,
Mm-hmm.
where if I disagree with someone, I'll disagree with them.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that I think this answers your question because I've forgotten what it was.
What's something that you thought to be important when you were younger that you don't care about now?
Well, yeah, you wanted everybody to like you. And, I think I had that kind of thing, people pleasing type of thing. Less of that now for sure. I think I've grown to understand the first person you have to please is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in a selfish way, but in a loving way and compassionate way.
Do you think that comes about as a result of age or experience or career advancement?
I think you can learn that lesson at any time, really, and the earlier the better. But I do think there's this element of you don't really sweat the small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody believes that, you understand the concept of that. But when you're older and you're looking, you're breathing down at this, maybe limited time.
No, it
front
is
of
limited
you,
time.
right?
It's been limited time since the day you were
right.
born.
It's like you prioritize, who's important to you, what's important to you, how do you want to spend your time, and getting the most out of every day, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to ask the flip side of that question.
Oh dear.
What's something that you didn't think was important when you were younger that now you think is very important?
Time.
Expand on that.
Well, it's funny when you're younger, you're like, oh, I can't wait until I get my license. Oh, I can't wait to go to, away to college, or I can't wait.
When you were waiting to get your license, didn't you were a month away from getting your license? It was just like the longest month of your life.
Right,
Right?
exactly. Now you're like, oh my God, time's going so fast. Can I slow it down?
Mhm.
And we actually had an episode about this, right?
We did.
It's a myth that time is going faster. It's not.
But it seems to.
And I think that's because we might be holding on to it a little bit harder and we're pulling back as opposed to, being future forward. Yeah, you want to slow things down.
I'll be turning 65 not in the not too distant future.
And we'll do a real talk episode with you, Joe. And now I get to come up with new questions.
I absolutely can't believe I'm going to be 65. Just
know.
it just boggles my mind.
And it is just a number.
It is just a number, but it's also a bigger number.
Right.
than-
And then when you look in the mirror and you go,
Well,
Oh, maybe I really am 60, whatever. I'm not fill in the blank. I'm not saying.
yeah, sometimes, especially first thing in the morning. But, and I've said this before, when I look at the back of my hands,
Mm.
like if my hand is on a table.
Okay, well, let's not get negative. Plus, this podcast's not about you, Joe.
That's
So
true. Well, you brought it up.
your turn is on March. Well, I won't say the date.
Yeah, it's in March.
It's in March.
Most years don't affect me.
Right.
Like, when I turned 40, it was like, big deal. When I turned 50, big deal. When I turned 60, big deal. It wasn't 65, you got to apply for Medicare.
That is a big,
That's-
it's a big milestone.
That's a
And
weird
it's
one.
also a year when a lot of people retire too, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of big changes, and this is part of the reason why we wanted to do this podcast in the first place, right? And we wanted to talk to people about it, and we wanted to try to cover subjects that are meaningful to people at this age, right? You know, it's like so much that we're facing into in this 60s decade, 70s, and beyond. It's really interesting. You know, I was just at a birthday party for a friend of mine who turned, now wait for it, 91.
Good for her.
Yeah. And she's sharp as a tack.
Good.
And all of her friends came and they were standing around. I shot a photograph because it's like they were standing around and they're all in their 90s and they're all doing amazing. They look great. They're full faculties, whatever. And I was sitting there and it put things in perspective because I'm like, hey, if everything goes okay, I have another 30 years.
Hmm.
And that's a lot of time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's less time than it used to be, though.
So there's a lot of time and there's a lot more that I want to accomplish in my life. And, I feel in some ways I'm just getting started and maybe because it's, some of those reasons that we talked about, like you have a new perspective, you have a fresh perspective in this time of your life. And I think it's all good. It should be all good, right?
It is, like you said, it is just a number.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bigger number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's not as big as 90.
No, it's not. No, I have a friend whose father just turned 99.
Wow.
And he looks at
He's
us and
going for the presidential letter.
he he still calls us the kids.
Oh, that's so cute.
You
See,
kids.
it's all relative.
It is all relative.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Wow. That's a big, wide scope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it needs to be more put into context. Like advice about what?
I'm asking the questions here.
Well, I'm asking a counter
You get to decide.
question.
You get to decide in what realm that piece of advice lives.
Best piece. You know, it's funny. It's like I don't know if I've gotten the best piece of advice yet.
Well, so far. Okay.
Because
The best piece. All right. Let me rephrase the question.
knowledge. I'm still seeking advice. If anybody wants to help. No, I'm kidding.
Here's a piece of advice. Answer the question.
Oh, I'm working on it. Just give me, Josh, you're so pushy. It's my birthday. You have to be nice to me, by the way.
I know, we
The
should've-
one day of the entire year, I'm going to milk it for all it's worth.
Really, the one day.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the best piece of advice that I have got, oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I can think all the way back to being a kid. And I don't know if this counts as advice, but I can remember my mom saying, you can be anything you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you put your mind to.
So she's the one that came up with that that piece of advice.
Well, for me, she did.
Yep.
And she really believed that and she really supported that. And I have carried that with me through my life. And I'm still applying that concept. I love this idea of reinvention and evolving and having new pursuits. And again, I don't think we're done here. I couldn't have predicted that we would be doing a podcast. I wouldn't
Never
predicted
mind
that I'd be
Episode 80 of the
teaching a
podcast.
dance class,
Didn't we see something recently that most podcasts fail after like 7 episodes or 9 episodes or something?
And we're on
Yeah.
80.
This is number
Like,
80.
Woohoo!
Mhm.
Good for us.
And I do have to compliment you. You come up with most of the ideas for the subject matter.
Oh, thank you, Joe. And I do have to compliment you because you do an amazing job with the research and the technology and editing and making us sound halfway smart.
Together, we sound
Taking
like a
out,
whole smart.
yeah, taking out a lot of ums and rights that come out of my mouth. So,
That come right out of my mouth.
yeah, yeah, right?
Okay.
So that's definitely one really great piece of advice. And I think about my career, which is for the most part has been in marketing. And from that perspective, because I'm trying to think of all the different perspectives that we were talking about
Mhm.
advice, to be good at what I did, one of the best piece of advice that I got, and then I share with my students actually is, you have to put your feet in your customer's shoes, right? Be the
Mhm.
advocate for your customer. And I think that piece of advice really has a more widespread application. And I think it's about compassion, and trying to get out of your own head and perspective and understand another person's perspective. And that makes you a stronger person, I think.
When my kids would write an essay or a paper or something for school, and it continued into college, where once in a while they'd say, "Could you read this for me, make sure it makes sense?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always say, "I'm not going to read it right away. Read it as though you didn't write it."
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with what you're saying. Put yourself in the audience's shoes,
Right.
for lack of a better word.
Right.
And it makes a difference when you take yourself out of your own head and you
Right.
say, okay, I have to look at me
Mm-hmm.
like someone else looks at me.
Mm-hmm.
And it applies to work product, it
Mm-hmm.
applies to school product, it applies to
Relationships,
how you conduct yourself
Mm-hmm.
with other people, with your friends, with
Mm-hmm.
acquaintances.
Right.
It applies in every aspect of life.
Right.
All right. Here's one of our older questions that we always ask.
Oh.
Who's a 60 plus person you admire?
Oh, wow. Do they have to be alive?
Y-
Eleanor Roosevelt.
No, I think they have to be alive.
They have to be alive.
Yes.
You, Joe.
Oh, well, that's a nice compliment. Thank you, Janet.
You're
I'm
welcome.
kind of like,
Touched. Don't cry.
I'm not going to cry, but I don't know how to respond to that. So, but just thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I admire a lot of the people around me. Honestly, it doesn't have to be somebody famous. There's so many beautiful people in my life who are over 60 and doing amazing things, and I guess that's who I admire the most.
Okay.
Yeah, you're one of them.
Thank you. Am I blushing?
Mm-hmm, you are bright red.
What's on your bucket list?
Well, travel for sure.
Mhm.
More travel. And I know that's kind of a cliche or whatever, but I'm just planning a trip now and I'm very excited about it and really want to do more travel.
What is it about
And
travel that you like so much?
oh gosh, I don't know, again, about perspective, right? It really broadens your perspective. It's very educational, it's very inspirational. The beauty of it, just the discovery and the changes that you experience because of it,
Mhm.
relative to it. Yeah, I just love it.
Okay.
It's very mind expanding and can be physically expanding too. Like I
Sure.
think about like hiking, some of the hikes I've done, which have been very challenging.
You know what I say whenever someone says, "What do you like about travel?" You know my answer.
Food.
Yeah, it's the food.
Yeah, of course.
It's
That's
always the
part of the
food.
experience,
Yep.
right? It's the food, it's the people, it's the places, it's the scenery. It's funny. It's like my kids always make fun of me because when we're going to a new town or something, I want to open up the windows. You're in the car. I want to open up the windows because I want to smell and hear what's happening.
You want to smell?
Yeah, like I know it sounds crazy, but it's like I want all my senses to take in this new location that I've never been to before.
Well, get out of the car.
Okay, Joe, you know what? I'm in the car. They're driving. I'm in the
Oh.
back seat, and they're trying to keep me quiet.
Did they give you a cracker or something? Here, Mom. Here's a
Mom.
cracker. Now go to sleep.
No.
It's like when my daughter was a toddler and she wouldn't take her nap. We'd put her in the car and she'd be
You give
asleep.
her a cracker? How
No,
is that soothing? You'd be like choking on it. No, a
no.
cracker. Oh, maybe a butterscotch.
All right. Last question.
Yes, Joe.
What piece of advice would you give to someone who's about to turn 60?
Oh, just enjoy it all. Just enjoy it all. The challenges, the beauty of it. Hey, you're still breathing. My goodness. And again, put it in perspective. We're really not that old. And we really do have a lot more, hopefully, healthy, happy life to live. And that's my advice.
We've talked about it before, but I remember my grandparents at 65 years old.
Mm.
I think I'm much younger than they were. I really do. They just seem so much older.
It has
much
increased.
slower.
Lifespan has increased. The question is, has health span increased?
Mhm.
And I gotta say, I think so.
I agree.
I don't think they were as mobile as we were. I don't think they were necessarily as worried about diet and exercise and all that good stuff. But then we also have some environmental challenges that we face that maybe they didn't. But lifespan has increased. The question is, has health span? Most likely, I would say yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, how was this, Janet? Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
No, you were very kind to me, and that's good because I'm going to get you in a couple more ways.
All right.
That was thinking ahead, Joe. That was very smart of you.
No, it's not my first rodeo.
No, this was fun.
All
And,
right.
it reminds me that we need to have more Real Talk guests on because it is fun. And there is always something interesting that people have to say about this time of life. So let's do it.
Well, maybe we can update some of our regular questions.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask you all those questions because
I knew them.
You did.
I knew the
You
answers.
did. All right. That's it for this week's episode of the 60 Plus podcast. This very special episode
Yeah.
with Real Talk with Janet. And anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Nope, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm Joe.
I'm Janet. Bye.